I pretty much don't have a choice at this point. My laptop, which I've been very impressed with, a Dell Alienware GPU, is starting to croak on it because I'm getting little wavy lines on the screen. So I'm gonna build a PC in a Pelican case. Hello! Welcome to another video. In today's video, it's the complete build video for the world's first PC case built in a Milwaukee Packout. In the next video, I will do all the benchmarks and tests. So make sure you subscribe for that. Enjoy the video. So currently, I'm working on this GPU system. This was a step that I took. I was going in this direction. I haven't really taken it apart yet, but I took this apart. This was actually a two-piece. And when I took it apart, I ended up with this configuration. So that's going to give me a good amount of stability here in the top. So what I'm working on now is this. Probably won't be this exact piece, but so this connection here, right? So I want it to be connected to there. And then I actually had this on here with these standoffs that are the motherboard standoffs, and that did not give me the correct height. So this gets mounted to this, and then boom, goes in there like that. Or maybe I have it upside down, but yeah, so something like that, right? So basically what I'm trying to do right now is find the perfect standoff to give me the distance I need from here to there to mount this. So these little guys here are on there pretty good. So I have to go get some pliers. I had one. This is the size that I'm using for the motherboard. So I actually have two test benches I bought. So one test bench came with these taller ones, and the other test came with these. I opted for these in the build. So this is another standoff, because these are actually too tall for this as well. But now these might get me there. This might be too tall as well. So that's what I'm working on right now on this part. And then we get down to here, and this is where the power supply goes. And then I got my, this is for my drives, and that goes right there. So I'm just kind of building the cage around and adding the parts. And the last thing will be up here at the top with the GPU, and it's going to be a lot harder than anything else. So let's see if you can see the cuts on these. But I have a metal cutting saw, but it cuts steel as well, and so it just was not giving me a good cut. And I did cut a bunch, but I had to clean up the ends of these. I had to go at them with a pick to pick out the little pieces of aluminum that were folded over, and I had to file it down to get it all just good. And then I had to clean them really good and blow it out to make sure I didn't have any little pieces of aluminum floating around. So I actually bought an aluminum saw blade, so I don't have to do that anymore. So you can see on the end of this one here, it's just not the best cuts. So now I'm waiting again. I've done a lot of waiting on this project. I waited weeks for a millimeter tape measure. And now let's see if I can get this standoff off this. It looks like those standoffs are going to work perfectly. It's a little wonky because it's not screwed all together, but it pretty much is just perfect. So that problem is solved. On to the next one. Got it mocked up here. I don't know if this is going to come through on camera, but I have to take this one here, this bar down just, it looks like about 2 millimeters. And it's just maybe about a millimeter on that end. You see, I have physical connections to the case. Technically, with the 80/20, there's only one connection. You can't really see it's down here. But then we've got a connection to the case and a connection to the 80/20 right next to each other. All right, after some filing, cleaning up, I nailed it on the first try. The cage is not done, but it's definitely to a big spot. I gotta put in the horizontal there that holds the GPU, and that might actually be the last piece I have left to do. No, I don't know, that's correct. That there's a bracket that I have to put in here for the bottom of the GPU that I can't really get figured out until the motherboard's in there fully kitted out. So it's gonna be, and I have to wait for my saw blade. These mounting points weren't really doing me any favors, as they were recessing this whole thing back into the frame and not really making it easy for these bottom two to come out. So I found these, which I believe these are some kind of reinforcements for corners, which I was not using. And this just happens to just work perfectly. This is a i9 1300K, or no, 1200K, excuse me. And what I'm doing here is I'm actually taking off the mount mechanism, the stock mount mechanism that clamps down on the CPU. So this 12th and 13th gen Intel CPUs run hot. And this clamping device doesn't pull down evenly on all sides of the IHS. So you end up getting a CPU that is socketed but is kind of not perfectly even. So the problems that causes is when you're mounting your cooler, you're going to have I think it even potentially, if I remember correctly, even might bow it. So your CPU is kind of bowed, incorrectly. So I just took off the whole mechanism. Now I'm getting the CPU to put in there. And I got those little mini gloves on that come with the purchase of a test bench. on eBay. They send me a pair of gloves that are like 3 times too small. But these little cloth gloves are really nice to have when you're building this stuff because fingerprints is just all over everything. So now this is the device that replaces the stock clamping mechanism, and what it does is it just sits perfectly all the way around and helps. It also I think it also helps with heat dissipation as well. So this is just an aftermarket part. There's a few different companies that make them, and this one in particular, I might be wrong, but I think it's Thermalright. Could be wrong. So here I just go very slowly around and completely tighten it down a quarter turn at a time. And you just go all the way down. Like there's no torque value that is required. So there's another brand of the same item that I'm putting on here, but a different company makes it, that you have to actually torque down to torque specs. And no thanks. So, and this was a relatively cheap part. I want to say it was like $20, and they sent thermal paste with it. But I actually ordered a different brand of thermal paste. So I got tons of thermal paste in this build. Noctura sent some thermal paste with the cooler. And this thing sent thermal paste, and then I bought MX6. I just put on my other glasses. I have 2 sets of glasses. I have one set that's computer based, so just all one distance. And then I have a progressive pair that goes much tighter detail, so I just pop those on real quick. And once I get this all perfectly tightened down, then I proceed to do the thermal paste 3 times before I actually got it correct. So the first time I got it on there, and then I think I wasn't happy like in the process of putting it down. I like kind of slid it around and stuff. So yeah, there's the MX6 thermal paste. So big ranking thing. They literally ranked MS5 in the third spot, third best. So this is MX6. So I'm hoping that it scores a tad bit higher on the rankings. I bought it so long ago, I don't even remember where I looked up. So I spent a lot of time with this little, I cut like one of those little, it's almost like a credit card coupon thing you get in the mail for whatever. So I just cut that in half, the lengthwise, and then use that as like a putty spreader thing, and just made sure that I had a nice layer over the entire CPU. Now, so there was 2 mistakes, I think, because the third time I had to do it, I don't remember, but one of the mistakes I did was I put the RAM in the wrong slots. So I just didn't see on the board, because I literally got to look at the board with a magnifying glass to see it, and I didn't see that it had this little tiny arrows pointing to these 2 first. And believe it or not, it was like B2, 1, or A2 and B2, which I thought it was going to be A1 and 2. So I had to then move this all off again and put the RAM in the right spot, and at that point everything was perfect. Because boy, there for a while I was just like tightening it down, and the cooler was literally pressing on the RAM enough for it to be obvious that it wasn't in the right spot. So it was pushing over the RAM like 2 or 3 millimeters, right? So yeah, that was pretty much like the biggest oops on the whole build. I don't think there was any problems with it because I never turned it on, and I only had it like that for like 5 minutes at most before I was just like, this cannot be how this is gonna work. So, and then I took it apart and started really looking, and oh boy was I happy when I didn't have to populate that RAM slot. I was like, problem solved. A problem that wasn't even a problem. So yeah, you tighten this down a little bit, a little bit, a little bit, a little bit. But again, this is the first time. I had to do it 2 more times. And that includes completely cleaning the cooler and the IHS completely. And the IHS is the top part of the CPU. I had to cut out a little bit more in these, down in that section, to get this to set flush. Okay. So here I've marked all my holes, which in hindsight, because I marked these, I should have done this at this stage, because I did have about, I don't know, 3 or 4 more holes that I had to drill out correctly, because they weren't perfectly lined up when I got the acrylic lined up in there and everything. So, I don't know. Maybe it was good, you know, because then I would have had to do them all sketchily through the acrylic, which I really wish I would have been able to get 1/4 inch acrylic in red. That would have solved some problems and definitely made this thing a lot more rugged. It's pretty rugged. It could be more rugged, mainly if the acrylic was thicker. That would be... The acrylic was thicker, and I had a little more skills with the 80/20. Everything's good and works and will be fine, but it could be a little more burly with just, you know, some better corner bracketing and a little more planning. And of course, now that this is all built, I would change some things. I mean, that's how it is. Even though I went through 3 prototypes, until you actually build it out, every square inch of my everything is covered in project piles, tools. This is fabrication. All right, so I'm starting to put this together now. And I'm doing it right on top of the acrylic so I can basically have it where it needs to be. It's just the easiest way to do it. And I found these little poker things to be perfect for moving these little track nuts in and around to get everything correct. And unfortunately, the hardware store I went to only had the red Loctite, and I would have preferred the blue because holy cow. And maybe I should have put it all together without the Loctite and then put it all back together again with Loctite once I had it all figured out. That might have been a good idea because the Loctite was seriously in there on a bunch of pieces. Oh, a huge thanks to Kingston. I had all my Kingston order in a browser window for several months, waiting for the money to come in and just deciding exactly what I was going to do and exactly what I was going to buy. And at one point, I actually was going to buy a few more Kingston drives. I had like 4 of their, they were either 2 terabytes. Yeah, I think they were 2 terabytes. They might have been 4 terabyte. No, I'm pretty sure it was 2. So I decided instead of going with 4 2 terabyte drives from Kingston to just go with 1 8 terabyte drive from Samsung and be able to extend I have 4 slots. So 1 now, and I can expand later. If I would have bought all 4 and I put all 4 at 2 terabytes, that would have been it, right? So, but I wanted to get Kingston because the first thumb drive I ever bought was a 1 gig Kingston thumb drive, and that thing is over 15 years old, and I still use it. Not a lot, but I still use it. So yeah, they build stuff that lasts, and that is what is more important to me than anything, is that it's built to last, and it's going to last a long time. So that's why I went with Kingston. And they hooked me up. My order had been open in a window for months, and I had actually sent them an email saying, hey, I was wondering if you could hook me up. I'm building this PC and yada, 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 right? Well, they never actually got back to me. But the day that I freaking told them that I was going to buy everything, all my stuff went on sale. Like everything I had in my basket went on sale. And so I got an amazing deal. I was so stoked. So yeah, I'm super happy. And I have yet to even run the computer. And I'm already super happy with my RAM and my NVMe drives. My board was assembled incorrectly. This little plastic part is supposed to be on there. I have to get it off there and put it on there without breaking it. What are the chances of that happening? Oh, I actually got it to move without breaking it. I ran into a little issue when I assembled this. Somehow, I got the frame a little like this, a little bit. So over here, these are a little over, and over here, these are like this, right? So, and then I also had to change some structural things with this end. And in the process, things just kind of got out of whack. So that's kind of what I've been working on now, is just trying to get everything square and aligned and back into tightened up and up to this point. So I got the motherboard in there. Check it out, how it's in there. It could go down if I needed it to, but I don't think, regardless of what I do, I'm going to be able to get the GPU in there like I want. This is how I want it, but there's just not the room I need to get around the cooler, so I'm going to have to do this, which is not great because these fans aren't going to be sucking in through here, creating the positive pressure I need, because I've already had to take originally I wanted to have both the power supply and the GPU fans pulling in through the door, fresh air for themselves. Now, neither one. Yeah, there just isn't any room. Just simply rotating the card like that just opens up all kinds of room and possibilities for finishing the job this year. I've been working on this for almost 6 months now. I'm working on the GPU support, and I'm about ready to insert this. And I've got this part here that came with the test benches, okay? And here's what it does. It goes in there like that, and then you can mount this. So what I want is this, so it's here, from over here to over here. It's basically out of the shot. Well, from here to here, okay, right? So getting ready to put it in, and I'll just grab a different piece here. This stuff is from 8020.com, and this stuff is from test benches from eBay from China. Okay, and now it's not the same size. So now what I have to do, so the red and the black is one size, the silver is another size. Indistinguishable until you want to use a part like that. So now the problem is I'm trying to go to this one. So now I've got to switch these two and then cut a whole new one for here out of red so I can join these together the way I want. So a step forward and a step back. I bought the wrong saw blade, and yeah, I bought an aluminum cutting saw blade that I don't have a saw that it fit. I thought it would fit my other saw, but the hole on the blade was different, so proprietary stuff. So I cut this the same way I cut everything else. I wasn't really, this is about the best cut that I've got so far because I'm cutting with a Farius blade, so it's just like cutting it just too aggressively. But that's the best I could do. I gotta file them, I gotta pick with the little metal pick, all the little pieces that fold over. Little pieces fold over in there, right? And then I gotta blow it all out. Because if I get a little piece of aluminum on my motherboard, that could be game over. Alright, this is where it becomes a little frustrating because I actually forgot my standoffs here that go in here. And I just got that in there. And to get that in there, I have to take this out. And to take this out, I have to take, oh, it's a pain. But yeah, that's where I'm at right now. This went so much better than I was expecting it to go. So right here is a half a Liam Lee vertical mount. I took it apart and then just used that part. And then I have a thermal tank 600 millimeter PCIe extender. Okay. And so then I mounted that down with standoffs and just got lucky that everything was the right size, and I got it all lined up and it's in there and it's solid. If that'll click, I'm sure you're in there. So that's the definer, and there was a very satisfying snap when it went in, so pretty sure it's in there all the way. And then on the back end here, I have other parts that came out of the Lee bracket. This one piece, just this L bracket, and then another standoff, an L bracket, and bam, now I've got ruggedized, right? So now that's the first is keep the dust out, the second is make it rugged. Not that this needs to be like thrown around or anything, but just being able to move it without, but that's on there. That's on there, like, it's on there. And what that piece is for is I was not able to mount my GPU to suck in the air through the door or my PSU. So now I have 4 fans exiting, 4 fans intaking. The 4 fans intaking have grills over them, so there'll be less that can go through here. So what I'm doing is I'm putting another fan right here. So yeah, it's not wonky, I swear. Working on the solution to the need to mount a fan in a wonky place. I think I've got it with this, and I gotta cut this thing out, and that's what's gonna mount it. Should be good. Yeah, everything's in there pretty good. So then we'll have another little fan right there, and then I got my hinges, a latch. Yep, it's getting close. I'm using my M12 rotary tool that I have a disc cutter on. And it makes a pretty weird smell, to be honest, when you're cutting acrylic with that kind of saw. I just added this when I'm building it down like this, right? But then it runs standing up. So I did the first test with it all in there, and I stood it up with my finger on the bottom of the cage to feel if the cage was moving, the bottom part. The top will be secured here, here, and there, but the bottom wasn't secured anywhere. So what I did was I measured my last stick of this stuff, put it in there, kind of came up with a little bit of a unique fix because I couldn't actually get anything to drill. Ideally, I could have drilled this and just screwed this to that, but this is literally not going anywhere. So now this will keep the entire bottom from sagging. I got a MSI Meg 1300 watt power supply, which is, I probably could have got away with a 1000 watt, but the 1000 watt most likely would have been running a little harder, so a little hotter to keep up, possibly. That was my theory anyway, was to go oversized on the power supply so it would run overall cooler. I'm not sure or draw overall less power. Because if something's hot, then its efficiency goes down. And that's actually a platinum rated power supply that has the appropriate new, I think it's like ATX3 format. I could be wrong. And then there's also a Gen 5 in there as well, but I'm not sure which one actually applies to the plug that runs your GPU. So there's a whole new plug format, and you either have that special plug format that goes into your PSU, or you got to plug in this whole crazy wonky splitter and plug in 4 different cables. So I went with all the correct stuff and just waited until it showed up. I mean, literally, it was 8 long months it's been that I've been waiting. And I just now, at the time that I'm editing this, I have only had everything that I've needed, except I still don't have the door, for 1 week. So I've only had it for 1 week. And now, I'm editing this now because I'm editing this on my old laptop. And I don't even have the computer running yet. And I just have all this data on all this on my old computer that I need to finish up. So I'm editing this before I even finish the PC. Like we've seen it run, but I haven't run it. I don't have the door to block the dust from getting in there. So I literally just haven't done it. I've been waiting for this guy to give me the door, the laser printer guy, or laser cutter guy, for it'll be almost 2 weeks since I gave him the file. So I was supposed to get it Thursday. I was supposed to get it Friday. I was supposed to get it Monday. It's Tuesday, and it's Monday now. I didn't get it. Now I'm supposed to get it Tuesday. So yeah, super fun. So here I'm putting the motherboard in for the grand finale time, and I need to take this fan off to actually get to one of the motherboard screws underneath. So that's a lot of fun. Very little I'd change in my design. I would change enough. I'd make it a little wider. The reason I went with the width I did was because the way the bottom was shaped. But if I just would have ignored that and then went with some sort of crossbar that's where it just connected to the bottom from, then I could have made it 2 or 3 inches wider and a bit taller as far as the entrance. Like if I would have made it a little wider, I possibly could have got the GPU to go in the way I wanted it to. So I can't wait to run the stress test and see how good it actually works. And the weather's been so perfect right now because it's been cold and we're about ready to go into the warm season, pretty much when I can't run this computer. So I'm dying to get it done and get it tested before the weather gets too hot to really use it much, to be honest. Although I do have air conditioning now, so hopefully I won't have the same problems that I've had for the past few years. Alright, so ran into the first kind of major problem. I'm getting everything wired up, and this thing came loose. Turns out the screws I was using were just not long enough, and they were just barely wedged, so I didn't see it. So now I am literally doing open heart surgery. Catastrophe averted. This thing is mounted solid now and should never move again, in theory. I use Loctite, so my theory should be backed up with reality. It's time to plug it in. It's been like 6 months, and this is the most terrifying moment of that 6 months. Because, well, as soon as you add electricity to things, things can catch fire, they can explode. And if you've been watching computer news over the past few months, things have been catching fire and exploding quite a bit. All right, I'm about ready to turn it on for the first time. No, this is not scary at all. Not at all. Okay. So, here we go. Okay. That didn't do anything. See if the power button is going to do anything. Holy shit, it did. Holy shit. Oh, F2, F2. Oh. Ah! Yeah! Woohoo! Yeah! All right, let's talk about how I'm expecting the airflow situation to work in this configuration. This is not how I wanted it configured. This is pretty much how I had to configure it. So the white elephant is the PCIe extender that is appearing to block the fan. Well, it kind of is and it kind of isn't. And really, it seems like more than anything, it's just kind of ducting where the fan, most of the fans, but it's going to pull from over here. The cool air that's coming in from the case, this is where the intake's going to be. So it'll come in and go there. Instead of just pulling it directly, but see, there's going to be another fan right here, pushing down. All right, so what's going to be going on in here is absolute madness, really. Because we have fans pushing this way. We have fans pushing this way that are just pushing through here, which is why I had to put this where I put it. Originally, I was going to put it here, but I realized that this open blowing right on that would have been bad or not ideal. Especially just move it there. Now the hot air can blow here, around, and behind and past this, right? And I wanted to have the GPU, originally I wanted to have it like this, but there was just no room. It was just not going to fit. So I had to mount it like that. Then I had it mounted higher, but I realized that part of the cooling comes out this way, right? So I had to drop it down so it could push the air out because there's going to be a door here, right? So I should be okay. It is ridiculous number of fans because we got 2 on the CPU. We have 8 on the outer edge of the case. Then we have 1 in the door. So there's 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and this little guy has one little one. So that's what, oh, and there's another one right there. I lost count. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 fans in the case. With the general orientation of the flow being in here, up and across. Generally. The GPU is kind of the anomaly where it's kind of just, you know, sucking air. I mean, it almost looks like it's sucking air like right off, and it is kind of without a good upward forward airflow, the GPU is sucking the air right off the CPU. So, not ideal, but with the flow that I'm creating, I should be okay. And I'm kind of anticipating it being pretty good, right? That's my guess. My guess is this is all going to be pretty good. Like, I'll be able to get it's not water cooled. It'll be pretty good for air cooled, and possibly even like really good for air cooled. I'm not exactly sure how, the final, airflow is going to actually work, but that's my guess. Obviously, because I put it together this way, with the consideration on airflow the entire time when I was designing and building it, because keeping these things cool is crucial. I just used the forbidden substance in a PC build because those were in 3. There was 3 plugs hanging there, and to get that pinned out correctly for my motherboard, and then to just be able to plug it in and out without trying to get all the plugs orientated every time. That's for the power. Here we are in conundrum time. Number one weird thing that's going on that I can't figure out is this just won't stay here. The whole thing just wants to move up. I have no idea. I've been trying to figure it out. So I have plans, because I drilled, I don't know if I can see that. I have a little nut in there to screw that in. Now the issue, if I screw this in and then I put on the faceplate, that's it. It's in there. I have to take the faceplate back off this, and putting the faceplate on this is going to be very difficult because there is 18 nuts that have to all get lined up all the way around perfectly and then screwed in. That's going to be a very complicated procedure, okay? A procedure that I don't really want to have to do more than once. And if I have to work on this, all right, for whatever reason, if the faceplate was on here, I could take the screws out of the edges and just pick this up. The faceplate would be attached to it, and I could just take it over and work on it, whatever I need to do. Hopefully that's not the case, but that's reality, right? So if I have this screw done, that possibility is no longer a possibility. I don't even know if I can reach my hand up under. I guess it's a possibility if I had some kind of clamping situation like I had on the bottom, that I could just reach under here and undo, but being able to redo it is and with these nuts that slide around, that is not going to be able to I can't adjust this nut with the faceplate on there. You understand where I'm going with that? So now I kind of have to, I need this. When I stand the case up, it sits down, everything's fine. And the case standing up is how it's going to be, right? But I don't want this moving around, and I have no idea why. It's the weirdest thing. Like, there's something pushing somewhere, and I don't know where it's pushing. So, it's weird. But anyway, I have to basically figure out some way that I can, and I don't even know if I can reach in through here. If I had to reach in there and get my hand up over here to do something, That is a extreme tough situation. So leaving that unscrewed means that the only thing holding this into the case is the screw holes that go through the acrylic, which they're fan mounting screws. The same type that you mount your PC fan with is the same screws I'm using to go into here, plastic to plastic. Now, that may or may not be a problem. That might be, I mean, I don't see why this would try to come out standing up, why it would slide out. I don't think that's, I've had it standing up and it doesn't just flop out, so you know, it's probably okay. I would prefer to have this screwed, obviously, but I don't see how I can do it and then ever be able to get this thing apart easily again, which is why this part down here is just set up the way it is, where this frame just sits on this. It's not connected to this, so I can get this frame in and out, right? And then any sag that happens when this is stood up, it just goes on that bar and everything's perfect. Nothing really moves because the bar's in the perfect place, right? So in retrospect, I would have made these holes 4.7 millimeters, not 4.6 millimeters. So what I'm doing now is I'm just going through while I've still got the protective cover on and just slowly, gently threading in all these screws into the holes. So when I go to actually put it in, there's already the threads there. Well, I had a couple blowouts and I got glue on them now. And it is what it is. I'm going to try to drill it a little bit, and yeah, but oh yeah, oh well. This acrylic is a little thinner than I would have preferred. It's an 1/8 inch, but I would have preferred a little bit more. Working on the filter system, and these are magnet sticky tape magnets, right? And then we got some filter here, filter, I don't know what, plastic, right? So the next step is to cut the sections of this that go over here, and then more magnetic strip around the edge of that, and then this, boom, sticks to that, and bam, now I will have no dust in my PC. More of the forbidden PC building material. You do not superglue your PC. Well, unless you just need to make your filter longer. This is super unfortunate, and I don't know what's causing it, but my filter is not sticking on the edges. For some reason, all the corners, so maybe that one down there, aren't sticking. The magnet is just not doing magnet stuff. And it's all right where I had to cut in a little extra. I flipped it around, nothing changed. I'm so confused. I chose the Noctua fans because they're actually IP rated fans, which that was just like so what I was going for with this case. So the issue is all these little nuts, right? So they have to all be in the exact spot to line up with these holes, okay? Now, this, I would have preferred to this acrylic be thicker. It's kind of thin, to be honest. It'll be okay, but I don't want to pull it in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out to get all these holes lined up. That's why you save your prototypes. So what I have going on here is I did not notice there are some protrusions that go down below the rim of the box, namely these four here. So I actually have to cut them off now. Is it weird that I saved all of the plastic? Maybe not all the plastic, but I saved a lot of plastic that I cut off. Apparently to show you, the viewer, how much plastic I saw. Which, at this point, I now can show you. And throw it away. So depending on what you're actually cutting off of this case is if this is a better tool or if just a straight razor knife is a better tool. And the razor knife is how this, whatever you cut off with this tool, then you go back with the razor knife and you clean it up. And that gives you a pretty clean cut without having to battle it too hard. So anything I had to cut that was really small, I just used the razor knife and just chopped it off. Alright, so I'm working on the door and I need these little magnetic pieces to clip around. This isn't going to work. I need something that clips around the door, around the edge, like this, at each point. So I called a couple places. Nobody's able to do that. So I have to now figure out how to get my hands on some of this kind of metal and then bend it and cut it into the shape that I need. Alright, so this is what I found on Amazon, and these are just magnets to go on your glass door replacement. I had one hole that just was about a millimeter off, so buzz, 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 buzz. I just finished screwing in all the screws around the outside. I did have to carve them out a little bit with the Dremel to get some of them to work right. I cracked again, so I cracked right here. And so there's 1, 2, 3 cracks that if I didn't tell anybody, they wouldn't probably notice. So, and I had to carve this a little more, or I had to carve that, I had never carved it before, to make sure that the plug here doesn't get caught up. Now I kind of have a problem I got to work on. I built the whole magnetic thing, and on each area here, 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 and here, it bubbles up. The magnets aren't correct. So I have to take apart the filter and get it to go correctly, and then I have to design the door, and I have switched from hinges because this plexiglass is just not strong enough, I feel like, to make a door just by itself to hang on hinges. I don't want to do that. What's going on here is I bought 3 sticks of this aluminum bar, and I chopped it up into those pieces, and I'm building a frame for this because the glue look on the edge, it just doesn't look that good. And this will give it a nice, crisp, clean looking edge. And there's a bug right there. Go away, bug. So this one and this one have been sanded. This one has not been sanded yet. It's been washed and polished to to get the gunk off. So then I'm going to polish these two. I still have to sand that one, but you can see the difference. The process is to get a mark with that, mark with this, cut with that, get it into the correct shape with this, first sand, second sand, polish. Looks absolutely brilliant. I haven't put those stickers on yet. So what I'm working on now is, I think I've talked about this before, but this was my original part that I catted into there, okay? But this is a 1.2 DisplayPort, 1.2. Not what I need. I need 2.0, 2.1 would work, I think. So, I ordered this bad boy from China, okay? So now, this, haha, watch this, actually perfectly goes in there. So, it's like a standardized size, I guess. Trust me, it goes in there perfectly. So, what I need to do now is I got two of these, and I got this. So I need to trace this out and then transfer that on to this other material that I have. Then I'm going to put these hopefully in a compression situation, and then put it to the back of that, boom, and be able to screw to it. Alright, so I did that old school pencil trick, right? Alright, so this is the part that I came up with to mount these. Instead of glue, I just used a little screw to compression mount those in. This has been a bugger, and I also learned something, that my hand sweat, if I don't wipe it right off, it permanently etches. Doesn't really show up good on camera here though. Well, kind of right there, a little bit. That, yeah, and there was some here. Well, good. If it doesn't show up on camera, I don't need to talk about it. So what is going on is this has been an absolute bugger. And I forgot to film the solution, but the solution has to be messed with some more because those are too close together to plug two things into. So I've got to take it all apart because I didn't have these cables in time to assemble the rest of this. I now have to try to figure out how to get the protective plugs out of the display port on the GPU, which sits under there, and get these plugged in. So I got a smudger. And this was built for function and not for ease of construction or maintenance. And that's really where I'm going to probably no fingernails. Oh, I got one. Is that the right one? Yes. Oh, yeah. Ay, ay, ay. All right, one more. Oh boy. Yeah, well, not much to see, but those cables, I thought they were going to be a little long. Ooh-wee. Yeah, like perfect length. This is the monitor I bought off eBay used, and this is how it came shipped. And I'm a little concerned because it's something's flopping in there. So I would have preferred a box in a box with some padding around this box and then more padding around the monitor, but that's not how it got sent. So I'm recording the opening just in case there's an issue. This is the final item I need, except for the door. And it seems to be okay. This is the door panel I designed, and I designed this in GIMP, which is like a Photoshop emulation. So at this point, this is just on there in kind of a weird decal phase. When I export this out, this does not stick with the DXF file, right? So at this point, what I started doing, and this was weeks ago, I started communicating with the guy that is doing my laser cutting. And because basically I got to the point where I needed to use a different program to be able to put all this together. So the laser would etch that, right? So actually the program is the program that the guy with the laser cutter uses, okay? So I sent him a picture of this. He said, send me this stuff. I sent him it. I asked him, is that going to work? And then his responses were less than, oh shoot, I'm like looking at my phone. I got a text message literally from him, which is kind of funny. Because I'm really not happy with the situation because he never looked at this. So I sent it to him, he didn't look at it. I asked him when I sent it to him if that was gonna, if he could make that all work, right? Or if I needed to do some more work, right? Okay. So then, like about a week later, I asked him again, is that gonna work? I might not have asked him the first time. I might be incorrect on that. But I for sure asked him again. I looked at the text already. So, and he said, if this and if that, and so he had still not even looked at it. So then he was like, I was supposed to get it on Thursday, Friday. So he postponed me from Thursday to Friday, then from Friday to Monday, then from Monday to Tuesday. And then when I got there Tuesday, he had not even looked at the files yet at all. Not even looked, not even opened, and he couldn't even find my email. So it was like I resent him the email, and then he cut out the prototype, and then I jumped in my truck and went to drive home 30 miles away, and he was texting me, but I don't get text when I drive. So when I got all the way home, he's like, oh, you need to do this and you need to do that. I was like reading this like, he never even looked at this file and straight up told, like, I've been waiting for weeks. I could have done whatever in that time. But no. So now he wants me to change this to just a black and white image. And I'm like, yeah, I don't have the time. You said send me that, right? So he said send him this. So needless to say, I put a lot of work to try to have that engraved on the door, and it's not engraved on the door. That's the problem. Working with people with equipment, like if I had my own laser cutter, which is the first time I've ever needed anything laser cut. So why I would have my own laser cutter at this point. But I mean, this is just like completely 100% this guy. This guy, I mean, he never looked at anything until like the day he was going to cut it. And then the day he cuts it, or wants to cut it, he's looking at it and all these problems. And it's like, if he would have just opened the file when he gets it, or at some point before he wants to cut it, but he doesn't do that. So, yeah, the best intentions, but you know, you only can do what you can do with the tools you only personally own. So if you're going to rely on someone else's tools, yeah, hopefully they're better than this guy. In the final stretch here on this part, so these are magnets on a sticker, and I'm marking them out with my little aluminum pieces that I cut like a week ago at this point, I think, and trying to get all these pieces perfectly lined up. And it's kind of why I built the case the way I built the case. Is for this ability right here. And the one thing I would change, or there's a few things I would change, but in this situation, what I would have done is I would have gone to a CNC place that has like a water jet cutter or something to that effect, or a big CNC table cutter, and I would have had my frames for the filters cut out of steel, like just thick enough steel to where it is flat and holds itself flat. I don't know what gauge that is, but, and then finish that with, you know, like some paint, and that way I could have just directly stuck the filter material to the steel somehow, probably like super glue or maybe like two-sided tape. Not sure what I would have used. Probably two-sided tape now that I think about it. So, and then the steel just would have stuck to the magnets. And then I would not have needed two magnet to magnet, right? I could have used half as much magnets and quite honestly gotten a better overall result, because that steel would have been just one piece that I could have just not really been concerned about it kind of breaking and falling apart, which is a concern with these aluminum pieces that are just super glued to the filter screen. So, and then I was running into a problem with so the kit didn't come with enough magnets to use double magnets, right? So I had to buy more of this magnetic tape, and I got some at Home Depot, and it was in a roll. So the roll just simply gave it this really inconvenient rounded problem. So I should have hit it with a heat gun right at the start maybe, but I didn't. I did hit it with a heat gun later on in the process. just to try to maybe get it to go. And it seems okay. I already dropped it. It didn't fall apart. I bumped it when I was wiping the door off with the acrylic cleaner for the last time right before I shot the end of the video. And boom, knocked it off, fell on the floor, didn't break, kind of twisted a little bit, but then I put it right back on and it's on, it's fine, so. All right, so it's magneted down to my steel top here, and I have used gel super glue, and I'm hoping that the freaking frame is going to hold the bending magnets. I don't know how long I'm going to wait before I pop it up. I think I should look up how long it takes super glue to dry. And considering it's going to metal, that's not the ideal. All right, there it was. Super long video. Here it is. I haven't even run it yet. Well, I did turn it on to bench test it. But aside from that, I just got the final filter piece installed. And at this point, I can start moving forwards with the entire process of installing everything I need to install on it. So, and then after that, I can benchmark it. And make sure you subscribe for that, because I know you're waiting to see how the thermals work out on this. Go down in the comment section and let me know what you think is going to happen. Peace.